Before you fall asleep tonight, I want you to imagine a place where heaven's greatest secret was buried, not in myth, but in marble. A place that hums beneath the Vatican's golden halls, where silence was engineered and memory itself was put on trial. You are standing there now. It's midnight. The air smells of wax and centuries. Each step you take echoes like a question no one dares to ask. Above you, angels stare down from the ceilings, but their faces are too calm, too human, as if something far more dangerous hides just behind their painted smiles. And deep below, beneath prayers and doctrine, something is waiting, humming, remembering. This story doesn't begin with demons. It doesn't begin with sin. It begins with light, unbearable, untamed light that once walked among men. Long before the church became empire, before scripture was used to guard power, the ancients told of angels, the watchers, who descended to teach humanity. They gave us astronomy, medicine, fire, language. But knowledge breaks chains, and power that cannot be controlled becomes dangerous. So the church buried their names. The Book of Enoch vanished from the Bible. The watchers were rewritten as monsters, fallen, condemned. But their traces remain, hidden in hymns, etched into stained glass, encoded in the very language of the Mass. Tonight, you will follow their forgotten story, through sealed vaults, forbidden scriptures, and dreams whispered by angels who never truly fell. The question isn't what they were, it's why they were erased. You stand inside the Vatican at midnight. The air smells of wax and centuries. Every step echoes like a question no one dares to ask. High above, painted wings shimmer in gold. Angels fill the ceilings, but their faces are too calm, too human. You can almost sense what's missing. The pulse of something vast and untamed behind their painted smiles. This is where the story begins. Not with demons or sin, but with light, pure, unbearable light that once walked among men. Long ago, before the church became empire, before dogma became shield, the ancients told of angels who descended to teach humanity. They gave knowledge, astronomy, medicine, language, even metal and fire. But knowledge breaks chains, and power that cannot be controlled becomes dangerous. So the church hid their names. The Book of Enoch vanished from the Bible. The watchers became monsters, fallen, condemned. Yet, their traces remain, in stained glass, in hymns, in the language of the Mass itself. Hidden codes of worship, once meant for them, now offered to someone else. You wonder, was the devil easier to name because he stayed in his place? Was rebellion less frightening when it came from darkness, not from light? The Vatican's greatest fear was never evil. It was enlightenment, the possibility that heaven's brightest could act without permission. Tonight, you will walk through forbidden scripture, lost scrolls, and dreams whispered by angels who never truly fell, only disappeared. The question is not what they were, it's why they were erased. The marble breathes. You don't notice it at first. You think it's the air shifting through the cracks in the walls, the echo of distant bells, the faint pulse that every cathedral seems to hold in its bones. But then you realize, the air isn't moving. The marble is. It hums beneath your hand, a low vibration, deep as sleep. You press your palm against the wall, and for a moment, you think you feel wings, carved feathers rising under your skin, unfolding from within the stone. You stand in the lowest chamber beneath the Vatican, deeper than the archives, deeper than any map. The air tastes like dust and candle smoke. Around you, statues of angels stare down from alcoves carved into the walls. Their faces are eroded by time, but their eyes still hold that strange, knowing calm. The calm of beings who remember more than they are allowed to speak. One of them holds a finger to its lips. Silence. You step closer, tracing the worn marble of its robe. Beneath layers of soot, something glimmers. Faint engravings that run like veins through the stone. The pattern looks like script, but not Latin. The letters curve in impossible ways, each one alive, turning slightly as your eyes move. It feels less like language, more like breathing. You whisper to yourself, "What is this?" And the silence answers. It isn't a voice, not exactly. It's pressure, warmth, a shape forming in the air. You hear the sound of a name, soft, unfamiliar, ancient. Enoch. The name vibrates inside your skull, like the echo of a bell rung somewhere within your chest. You blink, and for a heartbeat, the statue's eyes seem open. You remember the stories, the apocryphal ones, the ones never read from pulpits. The Book of Enoch, banished from the canon, whispered about in the margins of theology. It told of angels who walked among men. Not messengers, not symbols, beings of light who touched earth, who taught, who changed everything they touched. But the Vatican erased it. Centuries ago, they sealed it away with other, unreliable testimonies. They called it heresy, claiming it gave angels too much will, too much humanity. Yet, here it is, beneath marble, hidden in plain prayer. You walk deeper into the chamber. The statues line both sides of a narrow corridor, each angel holding something different. A book, a sword, a sphere of flame. You count 13 of them. 13 when there should be 12. The last stands apart, half shattered, wings torn from its back. Its face is missing, but you feel its gaze all the same. A faint whisper moves through the air. Not words. Sound. The same low hum that lives beneath the marble, rising now like a slow exhale. The vibration grows stronger until dust falls from the ceiling in thin ribbons of light. You take another step. The ground opens. It isn't violent. It's deliberate, like a mouth parting to speak. Beneath the floor, you see stairs spiraling downward into blackness. You hesitate, then descend. Each step vibrates faintly. You count them in silence, the way a monk might count prayers. 33. Then the air changes. Colder. Older. The sound of water drips somewhere far away, echoing like a heartbeat. At the bottom, the stairs end in a room no larger than a chapel. At its center stands a slab of stone. Upon it lies a single object. A feather. Pale gold. Perfectly preserved. It should crumble when you touch it. It doesn't. Instead, it glows faintly. For a moment, you are no longer in the chamber. You stand in a desert. Sand burns beneath your feet. The sky is white fire. Around you, giants move, beings made of radiance, walking through the air as easily as breath. Their voices are thunder and song. You cannot understand the words, yet you feel them. Language not as speech, but as vibration. They are not human, but they are not gods. They are the bridge between the two. You see them teaching, drawing constellations in sand, shaping metal from stone, whispering to the first humans how to heal, how to read the sky. Each movement sings, each sound creates. Then, a fracture, a voice from above, heavy and cold. They were not meant to give what was forbidden. The light dims. The angels turn upward. Their faces are sorrow, not defiance. The voice descends again. Return or fall. They stay, and so they fall. You gasp. The vision ends. The feather dims. You realize you are still kneeling, the stone beneath you slick with condensation. You hear distant bells, but this time they sound wrong, uneven, almost afraid. You look up at the ceiling, and for an instant you see what lies behind the marble. Not angels of obedience, but angels of choice. Beings who broke silence, who gave humankind its first forbidden light. And you finally understand the fear that lingers in every cathedral. It was never of darkness. It was of what light might say if allowed to speak again. You leave the feather where it lies. As you climb the stairs, the statues above seem to turn their faces away. The marble hum fades back into stillness, but in the back of your mind the name repeats, quiet and steady as breath. Enoch, the first to listen, the last to be silenced. The Vatican sleeps above you. Its bells, steady now, but the silence beneath the wings remembers, and it is waiting. You wake to the sound of rain on the basilica roof. The dream still clings to you. The desert, the giants, the light. It feels less like a vision and more like memory. You sit in your small room beneath the dome, the candle guttering beside an open book. Not scripture, a catalogue. One of the restricted inventories of the Vatican Library. You turn a page and find a name scratched faintly in the margins. Liber Caelestis, the celestial book. No date, no author, just a notation in Latin. Status, suppressed. You've never seen it listed before. You trace the letters slowly. Somewhere deep below, that same hum begins again. You follow it. The corridors are empty at this hour. Statues loom in half-light, their shadows longer than their bodies. You descend past rooms locked by rusted gates, past plaques engraved with names no one speaks. Eventually, the air changes, colder, charged. You arrive at the vault door, bronze, massive, unmarked except for one symbol carved in shallow relief, a wing without a body. You press your palm against it. For a moment, nothing. Then warmth, spreading through your skin like blood, remembering a path. The door opens without sound. Inside, darkness. Not empty darkness, but one that feels aware. The air smells of dust and myrrh. On a central pedestal lies a single codex bound in faded leather. It hums faintly, vibrating with the same rhythm as the marble above. You approach. The title burned into its spine is almost gone, but one word remains. Enoch. You lift the cover. The pages glow faintly gold. Written in a language that seems alive, a weave of Latin, Hebrew, and something older. Each word shifts, resisting stillness. You begin to read. The text speaks not of demons or sin, but of communion, of angels who descended not in punishment, but in love. They shared knowledge, believing enlightenment was the truest worship. But heaven grew jealous. So a decree was made. All who gave light without permission would lose their names. You read until your hands tremble. The words begin to pulse faster. The letters change shape, rearranging themselves into patterns that look like constellations. You see Orion, then vanish. You see a spiral, then a door. Suddenly, the room brightens. The walls reflect the light of the book until everything glows like sunrise. And then, a voice, calm, close, almost human. You found it. You turn, but no one is there. The voice continues. You are not the first to seek it. You are only the first to listen. The air behind you moves. A shadow forms, shaped like a man, but woven from light. His face is a blur, his eyes the color of sky through flame. When he speaks, every candle trembles. We were not exiled for defiance. We were silenced for compassion. You step back, heart hammering. He gestures to the book. That was our last gift, the record of what we gave before they made you forget. You whisper, "Who are you?" His outline flickers. Once, I was called Azazel. Now, I am only memory. The word strikes you like thunder. Azazel, the watcher, the fallen teacher of men. In scripture, he was demonized, turned into the embodiment of sin. But here he stands, luminous, sorrowful, unchained. They feared us, he says softly. Not because we rebelled, but because we reminded them of what they were. Light learns, light questions, Light creates, but the church could not control what listens. He looks upward. The air trembles. When they erased the Book of Enoch, they did not destroy it. They buried it within themselves. The Vatican's silence is our tomb. You try to speak, but words fail. The light around him begins to thin. His voice fades like wind over water. Remember this. Heaven does not punish curiosity. Men do. Then he is gone. The book lies open, its pages blank. Only a faint warmth remains. You close the cover, and the hum stops. The silence feels absolute. Not peace, but pause. You know what you hold cannot remain hidden. The truth inside that book is older than religion, older than scripture. It is the memory of a time when angels were not worshipped, but understood. You leave the vault carrying nothing, yet everything feels heavier. As you ascend the stairs, you glance at the statues once more. For the first time, you notice their wings, each feather carved with writing too small to see before. Under candlelight, you can just make out a pattern. Spirals, stars, circles. The same symbols from the pages of Liber Caelestis. The Vatican above sleeps, its silence wrapped in gold. But you know it now. The quiet is not holy, it is containment. And somewhere, beneath that marble hush, the angels still hum, waiting for someone brave enough to listen again. You step into the dawn. The bells begin to ring, slow and deliberate, their sound slightly different this time, not calling to prayer, but answering it. You close your eyes and understand the truth the church once feared most. The devil was never their greatest threat. It was the sound of heaven thinking for itself. It begins with thunder that has no storm. You stand at the edge of an ancient plateau, the world below bathed in a dull, amber glow. The air is alive, a humming that builds and folds, like a choir breathing without voice. You close your eyes and hear it, deep beneath the wind, the rhythm of wings. The desert stretches endless, a mirror of dust and shadow. Lightning rolls across the horizon in silence. There is no sky, only light and its absence, locked in slow rotation. You feel the vibration before you see it, a tremor in the air, a pulse in the bones beneath your feet. Then they appear, not as you were taught, not with halos, not with feathers, spun from mercy. They descend as columns of radiance, threads of molten white falling through the atmosphere. The earth bends to receive them. The sand rises and dances like water meeting wind. You watch, breath caught in your throat. Each being takes form as it lands, vast silhouettes of brilliance and fire. Their wings are not wings, but arcs of energy folding into geometry. Faces shift like reflections in rippled glass. Their voices, if they are voices, arrive as resonance, words made of vibration. You do not understand the language, but meaning blooms inside you anyway. It is not sound that carries their message, it is memory. They speak of arrival, of purpose, of promise. They are the watchers, the sentinels of balance. They have come not to rule, but to observe, to teach humankind what creation hides from itself. You see them kneel beside the first settlements, crude fires, stones stacked into primitive temples. Their light spills across the faces of those who watch, filling them with awe, with terror, with hunger to know. They do not demand worship, they offer knowledge. Metals hum at their touch, herbs reveal their healing. The stars align into maps when their eyes rise toward heaven. One by one, the tribes learn how to shape, how to heal, how to call light into being. The watchers do not command, they show. And yet, in every gift, there is shadow. A woman watches one of the angels at work. His name hums across the air, Sariel. His hands shape iron into a blade, a mirror of sunlight hardened into form. He gives it to her, not as weapon, but as tool, a reflection of balance, power with purpose. But the men see her wield it and bow, mistaking creation for authority. Fear blooms, control follows. The first hierarchy is born not in heaven, but in misunderstanding. You walk among them as observer. The watchers move through human camps like patient teachers, but the world begins to tremble beneath their kindness. The boundary between divine and mortal thins. Fires burn longer, shadows linger where none should. Then comes the whisper, a low, distant decree that splits the air. It comes not from earth, but from above, heavy and final. You have given too much. The watchers fall silent, their light dims. A single voice among them, you cannot see whose, rises in sorrow, not rebellion. Can light disobey by shining? Heaven does not answer. The sky opens in a flash too white to bear. Thunder without sound, judgment without words. The watchers look upward, wings folded, eyes bright with grief. Then one by one, they turn away. They choose not ascent, but descent. The fall is not punishment, it is devotion. They descend fully into matter, their brilliance woven into flesh. Some become teachers, wandering prophets, whose eyes shimmer faintly with inner fire. Some vanish into mountains, leaving behind echoes that hum through stone. Some sleep beneath the sea. The world changes, but memory remembers. Centuries pass in an instant. You see temples built on sites where their feet once touched. You see songs written in languages now extinct, each verse a code, each rhythm a remembrance. You see the rise of priesthoods built not to celebrate the angels, but to contain their teachings. Then the image shifts. You stand in Rome ages later. The light is colder here, disciplined, refracted through order. The old gods have been renamed, their temples baptized. You watch a council gathered in secret, scrolls laid before them. One man holds a fragment of parchment written in a script that burns faintly when read. He looks afraid. This text, he says, claims that angels taught men the making of light from stone. Another replies, then it must be destroyed. We will call it temptation. The watchers are exiled again, this time not by heaven, but by history. The council seals the scrolls, fires burn in courtyards, books become ash. The Vatican rises in their place, layer upon layer of marble built over silence. But the hum never dies. You walk through those same corridors now, centuries later, listening. The air vibrates faintly, carrying fragments of that lost harmony. For a moment, you almost see them, not with eyes best, but with the echo behind them. The watchers never fell. They transformed. You step into the light spilling through stained glass, and for a heartbeat, it feels alive. Every beam a feather, every color a chord. The hum rises again, faint but certain. The descent was never a fall. It was a promise, one the world has yet to keep. The world before language was quiet, but never still. You see it now, the early earth, shivering beneath the first dawn. Smoke curls from crude fires. The sky is pale, fragile as breath. Humanity stands at the edge of knowing, trembling between survival and awakening. Then, they come again, not as conquerors, but as mirrors. The watchers move through the camps like light taking form. Their presence bends the air. Children stop crying. The wind holds its breath. They do not speak words. They radiate understanding. One kneels beside a child and places a hand on her forehead. Images flood her mind. Patterns of stars, shapes of herbs, the rhythm of water boiling over flame. She gasps and begins to draw in the dirt. Circles, lines, spirals. Knowledge unfolds like instinct remembered. Another watcher stands at a river's edge, his reflection flickering between man and light. He teaches the people to draw metal from stone. They call it fire's blood. When it hardens, they name it divine. From it come plows, cups, blades. Civilization begins. Yet every gift carries consequence. The more they learn, the more they desire. Fire teaches warmth and war. Language brings wisdom and deceit. Knowledge frees and divides. The watchers do not interfere. They watch as their name commands. But some hearts begin to ache. One of them, you know his name though he never speaks it. Kokabeel, keeper of the stars, looks upon humanity and feels something forbidden. Compassion that feels too close to love. He descends further, taking form not of fire, but of flesh. He walks among the people as one of them, eats their food, listens to their laughter. In his eyes burns the sadness of eternity bound in time. When the tribes see him, they kneel. He lifts them instead. Do not worship light, he says. Become it. For a time, they listen. Villages thrive. The sick heal. The crops grow. And then, the priests return. Not angels this time, but men who claim heaven's voice. They see what the watchers have done and feel their power threatened. They twist the tale. These beings are not divine, they say. They are deceivers. They tempt you with wisdom meant only for gods. Fear spreads faster than faith. Temples rise where gardens once stood. Offerings replace understanding. The people forget the teachers and remember only the punishment. You watch from the edge of that memory, helpless, as knowledge becomes crime. Scrolls are hidden in caves. Names are erased. And then comes the first angel burned. They call him Arakiel, the builder. He had taught men how to read the geometry of the stars, how to align temples to the movement of the heavens. When he refused to recant, they chained him to the stones he had built and set them aflame. His last words became legend. You can burn fire, but it only changes shape. Centuries later, that flame still burns. In the lamps of scholars, in the questions priests pretend not to hear. You walk through one of those temples now, long turned to ruin. The walls still hum faintly. The carvings show wings folded over human figures, not in protection, but in merging. The line between divine and mortal, blurred into unity. You reach the altar. On it lies a single object, a fragment of obsidian, etched with faint grooves. You lift it to the light. It reflects not your face, but shapes, equations, maps, symbols you do not know. The hum deepens, resonating with your heartbeat. Then, from behind you, a whisper. Do you see it? You turn. No one. Only air moving like thought. The whisper continues, softer now. We gave them what we were. Fire for mind, flesh for spirit, but they feared both. They built their heaven on separation. The voice pauses, heavy with regret. You cannot control what loves freely. The air grows still. The hum fades. Only the faint warmth of the obsidian remains in your hand. You understand now. The angels were not cast out for sin. They were exiled for empathy. Their gifts were too human. Their light too familiar. The Vatican of centuries later would build altars over their ashes and call it salvation. But beneath those stones, their names still burn. Every candle lit in prayer carries a spark of the fire they left behind. Every hymn sung in faith echoes the rhythm of their teaching. You leave the ruin, the obsidian still pulsing in your palm. The wind moves through broken arches like breath through an ancient lung. You can almost hear it, a faint melody rising from the stones. Fire and flesh, heaven and earth. They were never meant to be enemies. As you walk into the dusk, you feel the pulse of that ancient knowledge stir again inside you. Not revelation, recognition. Somewhere far above, unseen by any telescope or saint, the watchers look down and whisper your name, the next keeper of their song. And the night, for the first time in centuries, feels awake. It begins with the first lie told in the name of heaven. You see it happen, not as myth, but as memory. A council gathered beneath torchlight. The smell of oil and smoke hangs thick in the air. Scrolls line the floor, each written in a hand too old to trace. Priests kneel before them, whispering prayers that sound more like arguments. The fire flickers. Shadows stretch long, and the silence between words feels like confession. You stand at the edge, unseen. You know what they're discussing: the watchers, the fallen light, the strange miracles that still move through the world. Reports have spread from every direction. Healers who claim to hear voices in dreams, stones that sing when the moon rises, languages spoken by those who never learned them. One priest slams his hand on the table. "It must stop," he says. "These are not gifts from heaven. They are deceptions. The devil hides behind beauty." Another shakes his head. Or perhaps they are reminders. Perhaps the angels never fell. A third voice, quiet and sharp as glass, cuts through the noise. "Then heaven itself is guilty." Silence. They all turn toward the speaker. A scholar with ink-stained hands, eyes hollow from nights spent reading banned texts. His name will never be recorded. Only his words will survive, whispered centuries later in secret schools of thought. If the light disobeys, then obedience is the true darkness. That night, they vote to erase him. The fire swells, scrolls burn, the smoke rises like a spirit, leaving the body of knowledge itself. When morning comes, a decree is issued. The miracles will be renamed. The watchers will become demons. The knowledge they gave, astronomy, medicine, metallurgy, will be branded as temptation. Fear, for the first time, becomes doctrine. You walk through the centuries that follow. Each generation inherits a quieter world. The songs of the watchers fade into superstition. The priests rewrite the prayers. Every mention of angels as teachers is replaced with words of warning. They turn light into hierarchy, one that demands distance. Heaven above, earth below, never to meet again. But something lingers. In the silence after Mass, in the smoke that rises from candles, you feel it. The faint pulse beneath the ritual, the echo of something older, freer, almost alive. A monk in the 4th century dreams of wings made of fire. He wakes screaming, claiming an angel kissed his eyes and showed him the machinery of the stars. His vision is declared blasphemy. He is made to fast until death. The dream is written down, locked away, never destroyed. A woman in the 9th century heals the sick with a touch. She says she hears songs when she prays, melodies that no one else can hear. The church calls her possessed. They burn her village, but the smoke carries her hymn across valleys. Travelers hear it and remember. A scholar in the 13th century translates fragments of the Book of Enoch. He writes, "Fear was invented to protect faith from light." His manuscript disappears into the Vatican's vaults. And so it continues, century after century, fear sharpened into theology. The idea of the devil expands. The notion of angels contracts. Heaven becomes smaller, cleaner, more controllable. You walk into a cathedral built in the 15th century. Every surface gleams with devotion. Gold leaf, stained glass, incense thick enough to choke on. But beneath the beauty, something trembles. Look closer. Angels painted on ceilings, their wings curved downward, their eyes turned away. Not soaring, kneeling, always beneath a throne. The message is clear. Light must serve. A priest stands at the pulpit and preaches about rebellion. He speaks of Lucifer, the morning star, the one who fell. But he never mentions the watchers. He never says there were many who fell, not from pride, but from love. He tells his congregation to fear those who question. He says, obedience is salvation. The crowd bows their heads. You can feel it. The shift in air, the collective exhale of submission. That's how fear works. It doesn't roar, it whispers. And beneath the marble, buried in catacombs older than Rome itself, the truth waits in the dark. You walk down there now, past bones of saints and martyrs, past altars built over older shrines. In one narrow chamber, you find carvings on the wall, faint symbols of eyes and stars, the language of the watchers. Someone has tried to scrape them away. The marks of chisels remain, but the carvings glow faintly when your hand nears them. The hum returns, low, resonant, patient. It's then you realize something profound. Fear never destroys what it hides. It only buries it deeper. The Vatican feared angels because they could not command them. They feared light because it answered to no hierarchy. The devil could be bound in ritual, defined by contrast, exorcised by words. But angels, the true ones, the unchained ones, could not be silenced without rewriting creation itself. You leave the chamber, the hum still echoing in your bones. Above you, the city sleeps beneath 1,000 crosses. You look up at the stars, the same stars the watchers once traced. They burn with quiet defiance. No decree can erase that. You understand now why the church chose fear. It was safer than wonder, and so began the long night of faith, lit by candles, but terrified of the sun. It starts not with fire, but with ink, the ink of suppression, black, deliberate, final. You stand in the Vatican Library, though it is not the one visitors see. This one lies deeper, older, beneath the marble corridors lined with gold. The walls are stone, the lamps faint. It smells of dust and oil, of parchment that remembers too much. Rows of manuscripts lie sealed in iron drawers, each labeled not with title, but with warning. Apocrypha. Suppressed. Forbidden. You pull one open. The sound it makes is not a creak, it's a sigh, as though the shelf itself is relieved to be touched. Inside lies a collection of scrolls, brittle, cracked, but pulsing faintly with some inner warmth. You lift one carefully. Its title reads, Liber Lucis, the Book of Light. Marginal notes in Latin crawl along the edges. Origin unknown, author unverified, contents heretical. You unroll it. The letters shimmer faintly, written in a script that shifts when you blink. You read slowly, tracing each line as if it might vanish at any moment. The text speaks of angels not as servants, but as architects, builders of galaxies, keepers of sound. It claims that creation was not a command from one voice, but a chorus, a harmony. You stop. The weight of the idea presses on your chest. If the universe was a collaboration, not an order, then power belongs not to the one who commands, but to all who listen. That was the truth the church could never allow. You hear footsteps behind you. A voice, low, steady, tired, speaks. You shouldn't be here. You turn. An old archivist stands in the doorway, his face half shadow. His robe bears no insignia, only dust. He studies you for a moment, then nods. I suppose it was only a matter of time before someone came looking. He walks to the table and touches the scroll. Do you know why this book was banned? You shake your head. Because it speaks of angels who acted without permission. And because it says that God did not punish them, men did. His fingers trace the edge of the parchment. The councils could not erase what heaven made, so they buried it. Changed the language, called it blasphemy. Easier to fear light than to follow it. He gestures around the room. Every book here is a silence, a truth replaced by obedience. You watch him. Why keep them at all? He smiles faintly. Because destruction is louder than denial. If you burn something, someone will ask why the ashes glow. He walks away, leaving you with the hum of the old lamps. You read again, slower this time. Each line feels like confession. not of sin, but of memory. One passage grips you. The Watchers were the first teachers. They gave humanity the keys of fire and the map of stars. But men feared freedom, so they built a heaven that listens only to one voice. You look up, the ceiling arches like a sky turned to stone. You whisper to yourself, heaven rewritten. The archivist's words echo in your mind. Every book here is a silence. You wander deeper through the aisles. More volumes wait. Codex Urielis, Chronicon Sariel, the testament of the silent choir. Each bears the same note, restricted. You open one and find pages erased, scraped clean with a blade, the faint outline of wings still visible beneath the surface. The church did not only banish the stories, it rewrote them. In the new versions, the Watchers became devils, their gifts became curses, their compassion was twisted into pride. You can almost see the scribes, their quills trembling as they redact divine rebellion into moral warning. Ink over fire, doctrine over memory. But beneath the erasures, the old words still breathe. You hold one page to the light and see faint letters bleeding through the new script. The original reads, "To fall is to descend into understanding." You close your eyes. The air thickens. Somewhere far above, the cathedral bells toll, distant, muffled, as though underwater. You feel a tremor beneath your feet, that familiar hum stirring again. The books begin to vibrate softly. One by one, their seals crack. The room fills with a faint glow, not bright, not blinding, just warm, like the inside of breath. You hear voices, dozens, hundreds. The words overlap, forming a single tone, neither male nor female, neither command nor plea. It sounds like forgiveness, then silence. The glow fades. The books are still. You realize the hum wasn't coming from the shelves. It was coming from you. When you leave the vault, dawn is breaking. The light in the corridors looks different now, softer but alive. The statues of angels seem less passive, their carved eyes turned slightly toward you, as if in quiet approval. You understand then what heaven's censorship truly was. Not an act of cruelty, but of fear. Fear that if humanity remembered, it might stop kneeling. You climb the final stairs and step into the open courtyard. The sky is wide and pale. Bells ring again, pure this time, unshaken. You whisper to the air. The words survived. And the wind answers, carrying the faintest echo, a sound like wings unfolding after too long in silence. The name came first, before the shape, before the doctrine, before the horns or the flame. The word was spoken into being. Diabolus, divider, the one who separates. You stand in a candlelit chamber, a gathering of men bent over parchment. The room is thick with incense and politics. On the table before them lie fragments of older texts, Sumerian, Coptic, Greek, theologies dismantled and rearranged into something new. They are not writing scripture, they are writing control. You see one of them dip his quill into ink and draw a line across the margin of an ancient scroll. A single word is crossed out, Lucifer. In its place he writes, Satanas. The others nod. A man with a scar across his cheek murmurs, "Light cannot fall unless we name the shadow." The decision feels small, bureaucratic, almost mundane, but that moment will reshape the world. From then on, evil would have a face they could control. You feel it immediately, the shift in language, the tightening of story. The Watchers are gone, their rebellion rewritten, their dissent reframed as treachery. What once was compassion becomes corruption. Knowledge becomes temptation. The devil is born not from darkness, but from convenience. Heaven needs an enemy. The church needs a reason to rule. And so the concept of evil is crafted carefully, a tool forged in doctrine, sharpened by fear. You watch the myth spread like smoke. Artists paint him as red and winged, half beast, half man, the mirror of everything human and divine, bound by shame. The image sticks. The masses understand now. It is easier to fear one demon than to question 1,000 angels. The Watcher's story dissolves into superstition. Their names, Azazel, Kokabeel, Sariel, are whispered only in curses. The Vatican's narrative solidifies. Angels are pure, obedient, without will. Anything else must belong to the devil. But the lie has cracks. In a small monastery in Armenia, a monk dreams of a burning figure who calls himself the First Light. The monk writes, "He wept for humanity, not for himself. His text is banned before it can be copied. But one page survives, carried through centuries, ink faded, but legible. It reads, 'The devil was an invention, but light was never lost.' You hold that fragment now. The paper trembles between your fingers, not from age, but from something else. A pulse, a frequency just beyond hearing. You realize it's not the words that vibrate. It's the truth behind them, straining to be remembered. You close your eyes. The vision returns. You see a council in heaven before the fall. The watchers stand before the throne, not in defiance, but in sorrow. They have given knowledge to humankind. The light of understanding burns bright in mortal minds. But heaven's order depends on distance. The divine cannot mingle with the dust. The voice of the throne booms. They will forget you. They will name you evil, so they may keep their fear. The watchers bow, not in defeat, in mercy. Then comes the division. The choir splits. One side chooses silence, the other dissent. From that fracture, the myth of the devil is born. Not a being of sin, but of sacrifice. You open your eyes. The chamber fades back into stone and candlelight. The truth tastes bitter. The devil was never an enemy of God. He was the cost of free will. You walk through Rome's narrow streets as bells toll for vespers. Statues of Michael slaying the dragon rise from fountains, triumphant. But look closely. In every sculpture, the faces of the two, the saint and the serpent, mirror each other. One winged, one broken, but both carved from the same marble. Fear has always been the simplest form of faith. The Vatican turned the devil into a story everyone could understand. Rebellion as wickedness, punishment as justice. The idea was elegant, efficient, and it worked. For centuries, people believed that evil came from a single figure, not from choice. But deep in the archives, hidden among relics and reliquaries, another document sleeps, the Codex Tenebrae. It claims that the first translations of Lucifer in Isaiah were never meant as a name. The word meant light-bringer. It was a title, not a fall, a role, not a curse. You trace the faded ink. The hum begins again. The air seems to shimmer. You hear the faint echo of laughter, not mocking, but sad. Then a voice, neither angelic nor human. You needed a devil, so you could feel innocent. The sound fades. You step outside again, into the open square. The night is quiet. The obelisk at St. Peter's glows faintly under moonlight, a relic of Egypt standing at the heart of Christendom. You wonder how many truths are buried in plain sight. The invention of the devil was the Church's greatest act of creation, and its greatest confession. For in naming what to hate, it revealed what it feared to love. The idea that divinity is not control, but freedom. The bells stop, the air stills. You whisper to yourself, the first rebellion was love. And the world, as if listening, does not disagree. The story you were taught begins with a fall. But what if it began with a choice? You are there now, at the moment before descent. The sky is not sky, but infinite radiance, a a sea of light folding into itself. The angels stand in concentric circles, their wings intersecting like geometry made of flame. Every thought they have is sound, every sound a vibration of creation. At the center stands one figure, radiant, calm, unbowed. His name, still unsullied, still luminous. Lucifer. He is not the enemy of God. He is the question of God. He stands before the throne and says softly, "If we are made of light, why must we obey darkness disguised as order?" The choir stills. The throne does not answer. Lucifer continues, his voice steady, almost sorrowful. "We sing creation into being, but we are forbidden to change the song. Are we instruments or are we echoes? If love is divine, must it also be silent?" Some turn away, others listen. Among them are the watchers, Uriel, Sariel, Azazel, Kokabeel, those who already walk the boundary between heaven and earth. They feel his words in the bones of their light. Heaven trembles. The vibration shifts from harmony to dissonance, not war, but awakening. Then, the voice of the throne. Obedience is perfection. Lucifer bows his head. Then imperfection must be divine. The air fractures. Light becomes gravity. Heaven contracts, forcing choice. Some remain. Some fall. Not out of hatred, but of love for what was incomplete. The rebellion of angels was never violence. It was the decision to feel. You see them fall, not screaming, but singing. Each note a declaration. We will not be silence. The sky opens, spilling them across the firmament like shattered constellations. They land among mountains, seas and forests. The impact is not destruction, it is incarnation. Lucifer's light scatters, becoming sparks in every living soul. The watchers land among humankind, their wings folding into memory. For a time, the world glows brighter. Inspiration burns in art, in science, in love. But the hierarchy above cannot allow that. The throne decrees, their story will be rewritten. And so begins the great censorship of heaven. The fallen become demons, the curious become cursed, the rebellion becomes myth. You walk through the centuries as the story hardens. Painters capture the fall as chaos, not choice. Sculptors carved the rebel angel beneath the foot of Michael, never beside him. The church repeats the tale until it becomes truth by repetition. But traces remain. In Renaissance frescoes, you find small details. Halos tilted downward, eyes that meet the viewer directly instead of gazing upward. In the margins of old manuscripts, scribes draw feathers with burning tips. These are acts of quiet resistance, the memory of those who refuse to erase compassion from the story. You stand before one such fresco now, hidden in a monastery near Assisi. The paint is cracked and faded, but in the corner of the composition, barely visible, is a figure that doesn't belong. An angel with no halo, standing not above nor below, but between. A bridge, a watcher. The inscription beneath it reads in Latin, Amor vincit caelum, love conquers heaven. You close your eyes. The air hums again. That same familiar tone, older than words, older than faith. You feel it in your pulse. It is not rebellion, it is remembrance. Then you see it, not a vision, but a return. The choir of the fallen rises once more, no longer bound by hierarchy. Their wings unfold across the night sky, invisible but felt. They move through every heart that dares to question. Lucifer stands among them, luminous as before, but changed. His light no longer blinding, but human. He whispers, "Rebellion was not against God, it was against fear." You open your eyes to the present. The city of Rome glows beneath the stars. Somewhere a priest locks the church doors. Somewhere else a child looks at the sky and feels something stir inside. A memory that does not belong to this world. That is how it begins again, quietly. You realize now that the angelic rebellion never ended. It continues in thought, in art, in every act of compassion that defies order. Every question asked in sincerity is another feather regrown. Every truth spoken against silence is another spark of that first light. The Vatican may have written obedience into its stones, but the angels wrote freedom into the human soul. And so, the real rebellion lives not in heaven, not in hell, but in you, in the part that still listens for the hum beneath the marble, that still believes knowledge is not a sin. You look up. The stars are burning softly, like a memory returned. And for the first time, you understand what the watchers meant when they said, "To fall is to remember where you came from." You whisper into the night. Then maybe the fall was never a fall at all. And somewhere in the dark between worlds, 1,000 unseen wings stir, and the sky remembers how to sing. You hear it first as a vibration, not a sound, a hum that slides between the walls of the world, threading through air, stone, and skin. At first, it feels like memory, something half remembered from a dream you never lived. But then it sharpens. Notes rise like mist. Patterns form. Voices emerge. They are not human. You stand in the nave of an abandoned basilica, long forgotten by its caretakers. The ceiling arches above you like a ribcage of heaven itself, broken and vast. Dust hangs in the beams of light that slip through the cracked stained glass. And within that stillness, the music begins again. Soft, wordless, infinite. You can't tell if it's coming from the earth below or the sky above. The tones do not move through air, they move through you. Every note feels like a pulse of something older than language. The lost choir. The Vatican records call them chorus vacuus, the empty choir. But the title is a misdirection. They were never empty. They were silenced. Centuries ago, before Gregorian chants were codified, before worship became pattern, there existed a form of sacred sound. Frequencies sung not for God, but for resonance. They believed every tone mirrored the order of creation, that to sing in harmony with the cosmos was to align heaven and earth. But there was danger in that freedom. Sound, unlike scripture, cannot be contained. You see it now, a memory unfurling in the air like smoke. A small cloister in 12th century Umbria. A circle of monks stand barefoot on cold stone, eyes closed. No instruments, no words, only sound. A vibration built on thirds and fifths, rising and falling like breath itself. At first, it is worship. Then, it becomes revelation. The walls begin to glow faintly, not from candlelight, but from resonance. The air thickens. The monks open their eyes. One begins to weep. He whispers, "They are singing back." The room trembles. The tone grows deeper. The ceiling ripples like water. For a brief moment, the divine responds. That night, the Vatican orders the song to be buried. They call it Discordia Divina, divine dissonance. Too dangerous for human ears. The monks are scattered, the manuscripts burned, and the frequency that once joined heaven and earth becomes silence, but not forgotten. The lost choir survives in fragments, hidden in margins of hymnals, encoded in melodies of folk songs, disguised in the overtones of bells. You realize it when you listen carefully to ancient chant recordings. Faint harmonics beneath the surface, patterns that don't belong. You play one such recording now, a digitized echo of a 14th century monastic choir. The voices rise slow and solemn. But between the phrases, beneath the melody, there it is again. A hum, low and constant, moving in perfect fifths. You isolate the tone, amplify it, and then the impossible happens. Another tone answers, not from the recording, from the room around you. The sound moves like light refracted through water. The walls breathe. Dust vibrates into patterns, spirals, wings, constellations. You close your eyes and see them. The choir, the watchers, no longer radiant and untouchable, but human-shaped, eyes filled with soft sorrow. Their voices blend with the hum, not words, just meaning. We never left. You try to speak, but your breath dissolves into sound. Every cell in your body vibrates. The air shimmers. You feel yourself lifting, not in body, but in awareness, as though gravity itself has forgotten you. Then, silence. You open your eyes. The basilica is still again. The light is dimmer, the air heavy. You stand alone. But something remains. A faint resonance lingering in your chest, as though your heartbeat has learned the melody. You realize the truth. The lost choir was never about song. It was communication. A bridge between the divine and the human, built not from doctrine, but from vibration. The Vatican banned it because sound cannot be owned, because resonance speaks directly to the soul, bypassing every gate of control. You walk toward the altar. The marble is cracked, the crucifix missing. Beneath the loose tile, you find a fragment of parchment. It bears only one line of text, written in Enochian script. You translate it slowly. To listen is to remember the shape of creation. You hold it against your chest. The hum returns, faint but certain. You step outside. The night is cool, stars low and bright. Somewhere a bell rings, its note strangely perfect, echoing the same frequency as the choir. You realize it now. The angels never stopped singing. Humanity simply forgot how to hear. You close your eyes and listen, not to the world, but through it. The wind, the trees, the distant traffic, all layered in unseen harmony. And beneath it all, the quiet pulse of heaven itself, waiting for its audience to return. You whisper to the night, "I hear you." And for the first time, it whispers back. It starts with light. Always light. You see it flicker first, not across the sky, but within it. A vast current of brilliance folding into itself. Stars shift. Constellations rewrite their lines. The heavens tremble, not from destruction, but decision. You stand in the silence before the first sound of thunder. The war above the sky was never a war of weapons. It was a war of will, of what creation should mean. You see both sides now. The angels who remained loyal, wings white as ivory, their eyes reflecting only obedience. And the others, the watchers, the thinkers, the questioners, whose light bends differently, tinted with the color of thought. Between them lies the throne, a gravity of silence too vast for language. The first voice breaks it. It is Michael's, calm, precise, absolute. Order is heaven's law. Without it, the cosmos collapses. Opposite him stands Lucifer, the morning radiance. His voice is low, woven with grief. Order without love is not creation. It is confinement. Their words vibrate across dimensions. Galaxies flicker at their resonance. Stars birth and die in the rhythm of their argument. The choir waits, trembling. Then comes the decree, not spoken, but felt. The song must continue, unchanged. Lucifer bows his head. Then you fear evolution more than sin. He raises his hand. Light spirals outward, reshaping into millions of wings. Those who follow step forward. Not rebels, but dreamers. And then, a silence that feels like heartbreak. The first note of the war is not sound, but absence. Heaven divides. Wings collide in light too bright to bear. Not battle, not blood, collision of purpose. Each beam colliding like waves breaking against themselves. You hear it like thunder, see it like dawns collapsing. Every soul that falls does not scream, they sing. You see them descending, not torn from heaven, but drawn toward earth, their light scattering into the firmament. Each becomes a fragment of wisdom, a spark buried in the dust of worlds. The ocean of light above grows dimmer, quieter, more structured. The throne wins. But at what cost? You walk through time as the echoes of that war shape creation. The ripples become myth, the scars become stars. Humanity names the fallen evil, but every civilization that rises carries their fingerprint. Prometheus giving fire, Thoth teaching writing, Enoch hearing voices of light. Every myth is a reflection of the same moment, when knowledge fell from sky to soil. The war was never between good and evil. It was between control and curiosity. You find remnants of that conflict even now, in art, in architecture, in sound. The patterns of cathedrals mirror star maps. The layout of Rome aligns with constellations known to Egyptian priests. The church, without knowing, builds monuments to its own unspoken past. You walk beneath St. Peter's dome. The air hums faintly with energy you cannot name. Each pillar, each mosaic, vibrates at the same frequency, 432 hertz, the tone the watchers once used to tune the earth's resonance. You whisper beneath your breath, and the echo that returns is older than any psalm. Up there, beyond sight, the war still continues, not in violence, but in resonance. Every act of love, every question asked in faith, every rebellion that leads to compassion, each is a battle cry. The fallen are not gone. They move through humanity's courage, through its art, through every light kindled against darkness. You look to the sky. A storm brews, but no lightning falls, only illumination. Clouds glow from within, as if something vast and unseen stirs behind them. For a moment, the horizon ripples, and you swear you see wings. Thousands, silent, waiting. You realize it now. The war above the sky never ended because it was never meant to. It lives in the balance between obedience and wonder, between prayer and question, between heaven's order and the chaos that births new stars. The Vatican taught the world to kneel before light. The watchers taught it to stand within it. As you watch the clouds burn gold against the night, a voice moves through you. Not sound, not thought, but recognition. Creation is not over, it says. The song continues. You stand still. The hum rises. That same vibration that has followed you through marble and dust, through archives and silence. Only now it is louder, clearer, 1,000 voices blending into one. It isn't war anymore. It's harmony rediscovered. And in that moment, for the first time in all of history, heaven and earth sing the same note. You can almost hear them through time, the echo of murmurs trapped in marble, sealed beneath centuries of incense and prayer. The Vatican sleeps above, serene, unchanging. But below, deep in the catacombs where light forgets its name, men once gathered to decide what heaven was allowed to say. You walk through that silence now. The air is heavy, damp with centuries of secrecy. Torches once burned here, leaving trails of smoke that still stain the stone. The floor is made of uneven slabs, each one carved with symbols, circles, wings, stars, marks that predate Christianity itself. You run your hand across one, and it feels warm, as though the memory of touch never left it. The first council began not in Rome, but in fear. You see it unfold in your mind like a vision. Alexandria, 4th century. The city glows with torchlight. Ships line the harbor, heavy with scrolls stolen from temples and libraries. Inside a marble hall, bishops and scholars sit in a circle. The question before them is not about salvation. It is about control. What knowledge should humanity be permitted to keep? A young bishop stands, eyes sharp beneath his hood. The Book of Enoch. he says, voice trembling. Teaches that angels taught men to build, to heal, to read the stars. But if they taught, then why need we priests? Why need we mediators? The room falls silent. A candle guttering on the table flickers as if listening. An elder replies, because knowledge without obedience becomes rebellion. The angels defied heaven once. We cannot allow their teachings to defy us again. And so it is decided. The Book of Enoch will be removed from canon. The Watchers will be renamed. Their light will become sin, their memory forbidden. That night, scribes copy the decrees by candlelight. One hesitates. He dips his quill in ink, then instead of writing condemned, he writes hidden. A single word that changes the course of history, not destroyed, but concealed. For centuries, that single act will keep the truth alive. The Second Council takes place in Rome, 8th century. You can feel its presence even now, the tension that still hums through the Vatican's walls. It is here that the idea of the angelic hierarchy is born. No longer equals, no longer free. The angels are arranged like soldiers in a cosmic chain of command. Seraphim, cherubim, thrones, dominions, virtues, powers, archangels, angels. Heaven becomes empire. Obedience, its law. You stand in the same room where it was declared. The frescoes show clouds, light, and wings. But beneath the paint, you sense something else. Layers of older art, erased but not gone. You catch glimpses of symbols older than Genesis, eyes painted over with halos, suns turned into stars. The more you look, the more you feel the echo of what was buried. The memory of angels who once walked among men as equals, not rulers. The Third Council meets in secret, centuries later. Its members are not bishops but scholars, men of the church who have begun to doubt. They've seen things in the archives they cannot explain, relics that hum, manuscripts that glow under moonlight, fragments of prayer written in Enochian script. They whisper of the mechanism of light, a device hidden in the vaults, said to vibrate at the same frequency as the angelic tongue. One of them, an old Jesuit astronomer, writes, "If light has intelligence, then the stars are not symbols of heaven. They are heaven itself." When the letter reaches the Pope, the council is dissolved. Its members vanish. The official story says they were reassigned. The truth, their names were struck from record, their rooms sealed, their notes burned, but some of their writings survive in fragments, passed down in secret, phrases hidden in psalms, codes buried in Latin liturgy. Every Gloria and Hosanna carries frequencies of their defiance. You pause beside a marble pillar. A faint resonance moves through it, soft, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. You realize that these councils were not about faith. They were about boundaries, about keeping the divine at a distance so the church could mediate what heaven meant. And yet, every time they tried to silence the light, it found another voice. In the 14th century, a nun in Avignon begins hearing hymns that no choir could sing. The tones leave scorch marks on the walls. When questioned, she says, "It is the choir of those who were banished." She is declared possessed and confined. Her writings vanish, except one scrap of parchment that reads, "The angels do not serve, they remember." You look around. The walls seem to hum with that same defiance. Somewhere deep below, there is a door sealed with 7 locks. No map lists it. No archivist speaks of it. The legend says it leads to the Concilium Caelorum, the final council, the one that was never adjourned, the one still happening. You step closer to the sound. It's not chanting, it's conversation, low, constant, ancient. You can almost hear them now, debating, confessing, rewriting creation over and over, never realizing the angels they once silenced are still listening. The hum rises, faint but sure. The councils were meant to end heaven's conversation. Instead, they made it eternal. You walk through the Vatican at dawn. The marble gleams faintly under candlelight. The city outside is waking, but in here, time doesn't move. Every corridor, every arch, every window feels deliberate, not built for beauty, but for control. You realize it slowly. The Vatican is not just a house of worship. It is a machine. Its geometry hums with intention. Every dome amplifies prayer. Every corridor funnels sound. The layout itself seems to bend light towards certain corners and away from others. It's not design, it's containment, the architecture of silence. You stand at the entrance of St. Peter's Basilica. The air vibrates faintly beneath your feet. You close your eyes and listen. Beneath the footsteps, beneath the echo of Mass, there's another sound, a low, constant resonance. It's the same tone you've heard since the first chamber. The hum of the buried light. When you look at the basilica's structure, you begin to see it. A pattern of suppression written in stone. The shape of the nave mirrors a keyhole, the dome, a lock, the whole church, a vault. Every column hides a hollow channel that carries sound downward into the crypts. Every arch redirects echo away from the altar, absorbing it into marble veins that lead to the lower chambers. It's not built to exalt voices, it's built to capture them. You descend. Beneath the grandeur, the floor changes texture. Smooth marble gives way to rough stone. The air grows cooler, denser, older. You pass through narrow halls lined with inscriptions that seem to shift when your shadow crosses them. At the end of one passage stands a chamber shaped like a sphere, walls perfectly curved. You step inside. The door closes behind you with a sigh. Suddenly, all sound vanishes. Your breath, your heartbeat, even the hum. You stand in absolute silence. It feels sacred at first, pure, divine. But then you notice how heavy it is. The air presses against your skin. The silence isn't peace. It's pressure. It holds everything in. You whisper just to test it, and the sound dies before it leaves your mouth. You understand now. These rooms weren't built for meditation. They were built for suppression. Places where voices, both divine and human, could not escape. The Vatican didn't just fear words, it feared resonance. You look up. The ceiling bears faint etchings, a circle of wings surrounding a symbol of light breaking through stone. It's not Christian. It's older. Beneath it, carved into the wall, an inscription in Latin. Quod non potest exorciri debet tacere. What cannot be controlled must be silenced. You touch the wall. It hums faintly beneath your hand. The silence isn't silence at all. It's containment, vibration bound within stone. The angels' frequencies, trapped like echoes in amber. You step back, overwhelmed. The chamber feels alive, as if listening, and then you hear it. Faint, almost imperceptible. A breath, not yours. You whisper, "Who's there?" A voice answers, low and ancient. You are inside their song. You turn, but there's no one. Only the voice, everywhere and nowhere. Every cathedral, every chapel, every church built in our name was tuned to erase what we left behind, but we hid it in the walls. You look around. The stone shifts slightly under the flicker of your candle. Symbols appear, glowing faintly. Spirals, eyes, feathers, all pulsing in rhythm. The architecture is not yours, the voice continues. It is ours, rewritten. You close your eyes. The hum returns, deeper now. You feel it vibrate through your bones. Each wall, each arch, each stone joins in harmony. The silence collapses, replaced by a sound too vast for hearing, like standing inside the heartbeat of the earth. For a moment, you see them, wings made of light and geometry, filling the chamber, moving in patterns beyond physics. They are not ghosts. They are memory, preserved in resonance. You understand then what the Vatican tried to hide. The architecture was not just meant to silence angels. It was meant to keep humanity from remembering it could sing with them. You fall to your knees, not in worship, but recognition. The sound passes through you, not heard, but felt, a warmth spreading through every cell. When it fades, you realize something has changed. The hum is no longer buried. It's inside you. You climb the stairs slowly, back toward the surface. Dawn has risen over the city, light pouring through stained glass in colors too vivid for mortal pigment. The basilica feels different now, not a vault, but an instrument. And when the bells begin to ring, you hear it clearly this time. Not the call to prayer, not ritual, the echo of wings behind the walls. The architecture of silence has failed. The song has begun again. The Vatican is a text written in stone, but most of it has been erased, not by time, by intention. You walk through St. Peter's Square as dawn breaks, the marble glimmering like frost. The city hums faintly beneath your feet, alive with centuries of secrets. To everyone around you, this place is beauty, devotion, order. But you see something else, a pattern that hides inside the pattern. The obelisk at the center points upward, slicing the sky like an arrow of ancient memory. Tourists walk around it without looking twice, but you stop. You know where it came from. Egypt. Brought here in chains, not as a relic, but as a cipher. The hieroglyphs were sanded away, but the shape itself is the message. A bridge between heaven and earth, the axis of light, the same geometry the Watchers once used to summon harmony between realms. The Vatican kept it not as trophy, but as conduit. You walk in circles around the obelisk, tracing its shadow as it moves across the stones. Every hour, it points to a different mosaic embedded in the square. Each mark corresponds not to saints, as the guides claim, but to constellations: Orion, Pleiades, Sirius. The language of the stars disguised as decoration. The church erased the Watchers' names, but it could not erase their mathematics. You follow the lines etched into the pavement, the ones that seem random until you look from above. They form a sigil, massive and perfect, invisible to anyone who does not stand at its center. You whisper to yourself, this is not architecture, it's a map. A voice inside answers, not external, but remembered. You were never meant to see it, only to feel it. You glance toward the basilica. Its facade glows gold under the rising sun. Statues of saints stand along the roof, each holding something, a sword, a key, a book. But the arrangement is wrong. When you connect their positions, they trace the outline of a circle, and within that circle, the symbol of the Watchers, 2 wings, one upturned, one folded. You walk closer, every step heavier than the last. The marble beneath your feet vibrates faintly, a pulse timed with your heartbeat. Inside, the air changes. The smell of incense can't hide the faint scent of dust, oil, and stone warmed by centuries of human breath. You stand beneath Michelangelo's dome. To the faithful, it's a masterpiece. To you, it's a cipher. The fresco spirals upward, not merely to depict heaven, but to encode movement, the path of ascent, mapped in geometry. You tilt your head. The pattern repeats in Fibonacci ratios, the same mathematics that appear in wings, shells, galaxies. The same code the Watchers once taught. Even the light follows their design. At certain hours of the day, the sun enters through one window and not another, illuminating specific carvings on the floor. The priests say it symbolizes divine timing, but you know the truth. It's an old ritual of alignment, the same technique used in the temples of Thebes, where the sun touched the altar at solstice, marking the union of earth and light. You kneel, tracing the illuminated pattern. At its center, a circle of gold mosaic hides an older symbol beneath the newer one. You brush dust from the edge and see it, a winged eye. The eye of the watchers. The Vatican painted over it, layered saints above gods, prayer above invocation. But the symbols bled through. Light always reveals what shadow tries to bury. You remember a story, the whisper of an archivist you once met in a forgotten library. He said that every church in Europe has a hidden twin, a second structure built not for sight, but for resonance. Stones chosen for tone, aligned by vibration. When struck, they hum in the key of the angelic language. You test it. You press your palm against the wall beside you, the cool marble still trembling from the morning bells. You hum softly, a single note, low and steady. The stone responds. The sound deepens, folds in on itself, then blooms outward. For a moment, the entire basilica sings, and within the resonance, you hear it. Words, half-formed, carried by the vibration. Not Latin, not Hebrew, older. Anoch seraph, na here Enoch. You don't translate it, you feel it. We remember, we return. The sound fades, the world steadies. The priest lighting candles at the altar doesn't notice. The tourists whispering in awe don't hear the echo. But you do, you know what it means. The hidden symbols were never meant to be decoded by scholars. They were meant to awaken the memory inside those who could still feel the hum of creation. The angels built this language into the world itself, into art, into numbers, into light. The Vatican tried to bury it by preserving it. The paradox is perfect. You look up once more at the dome. The sun shifts again, and for a brief instant, the mosaic above you changes. The saints disappear in glare. And in their place you see wings, vast and gold, spreading across the ceiling. They are not painted, they are revealed. You close your eyes. The hum fills you again. And in that vibration, the secret becomes clear. The church never erased the angels. It became their disguise. The vault smells of ash even after 500 years. You feel it the moment you enter. The thick, dry weight of old smoke lingering in the air, as if the stones themselves remember what they were forced to witness. This is where the books died. You stand before a wall of charred remnants, each bound fragment labeled with a single number. No titles, no authors. The official record says these were heretical writings destroyed during the purges of the 15th and 16th centuries. But when you look closer, you see that the ash is not complete. Some pages survived. Some ink refused to die. You pick one up, the parchment brittle under your fingers. The text is half burned, the letters ghost-like, but faintly visible. Azazel spoke to the flame and said, "Let this light not destroy, but remember." The fire didn't consume the pages. It sealed them. You sit on the floor, cross-legged, surrounded by fragments of forbidden words. One of the archivists once told you that during the Inquisition, not all burnings were public. Some happened here, beneath the basilica, where no crowd would see. Priests would stand in circles, chanting prayers as they fed the pages to the fire, not to destroy truth, but to sanctify their silence. They believed that by burning the words, they returned them to heaven. But the words never went back. They stayed. You unroll another fragment. Drawings this time. Maps of constellations annotated in both Greek and Enochian. A sketch of a spiral pattern matching the floor of the basilica above. And beneath it, in hurried Latin, Vox caeli clause. The voice of heaven is trapped. You whisper the phrase aloud, and the air shifts. The torches flicker. The ash stirs. For a moment, the room glows faintly red, as if the fire never went out. You see them, the scribes who stood here, their robes singed, faces lit by orange flame. Their eyes are wet not with fear, but grief. They are not executioners. They are mourners. You hear one of them whisper, "We burn the pages to protect the readers." The others nod, silent. The flames rise. You can smell the parchment, sweet, bitter, holy. Each spark floats upward, carrying not destruction, but memory. The fire is language itself, reshaping form into energy. Then, a sudden vision. The fire stops consuming. It freezes mid-motion, and within it, shapes appear. Wings, eyes, symbols of light. The watchers, the same frequency of creation, refracted through the flame. The burning wasn't punishment. It was translation. The texts that burned were not lost. They changed medium. They moved from page to resonance, from ink to air. You open your eyes. The vision fades, but the truth remains. Every word burned here became vibration, absorbed by the stone. That is why the Vatican still hums. That is why every church echoes differently. Each wall tuned to a frequency once encoded by angels. You find a larger piece of parchment near the wall, its edges singed black but the center intact. The script is old, looping, filled with sigils you recognize. You read slowly. Fire is not the end of knowledge, but its transformation. When flesh or parchment fail, the word returns to vibration. That is how heaven preserves itself, not in stone, but in sound. Your hand trembles. You whisper the words aloud, and the chamber responds. The ash stirs again, rising like dust in a breeze. The temperature drops. You hear faint voices layered in the air, hundreds of them, chanting, praying, remembering. You close your eyes and realize it's not ghosts. It's sound. The room itself replaying what it once contained. The burned texts singing their final words back into being. The Vatican called it purification. The angels called it preservation. You look at the walls again. Beneath the soot, faint carvings reveal themselves. Spirals of script, mathematical ratios, star maps. You brush the surface clean and see a pattern emerge. The same winged geometry carved into every forbidden chamber before this one. You whisper, "You hid it here, didn't you?" And the room answers with a low hum. You understand now that these vaults are not archives of destruction. They are tombs of transformation, each burned word reborn as resonance. The church tried to silence knowledge with fire, but fire only made it eternal. The last fragment you find is different. The ink gleams faintly, untouched by flame. It reads, "When humanity rediscovers the voice within matter, the angels will return, for they were never gone, only vibrating too fast to be seen." You stand slowly, the parchment trembling in your hands. The torches flicker again, as though acknowledging the truth. The Vatican above remains silent, unaware that beneath its marble floors, the light it feared still burns. You walk toward the exit, every step echoing softly in perfect rhythm with your pulse. The air hums behind you, low and patient. When you reach the final stair, you turn once more toward the vault. The ash on the floor shifts like breath, and you hear the faintest whisper, the sound of pages turning themselves. You realize the burned texts are not relics. They are alive. And as you climb into the morning light, the hum follows. Through the marble, through the bells, through the air. A quiet song of everything humanity tried to forget, but never truly could. The angel's words still burn, not in flame, but in you. The smell of iron and incense fills the air. A cold wind moves through the courtyard, carrying with it the sound of chanting, low, rhythmic, unwavering. Torches flicker along the stone walls, their flames bending in unison, as if compelled by a single breath. You stand among the shadows, unseen, watching history replay itself. The year is 1487. Rome burns with zeal. The Inquisition has no room for hesitation. It is a machine carved from faith and fear, its gears greased with confession, its teeth sharpened on silence. But beneath the surface of its holy purpose lies a truth no record dares speak aloud. This was not only a war against heresy, it was a war against memory. You watch as an inquisitor enters the hall. He moves with the certainty of someone who believes God watches from just over his shoulder. His robe is black, his hands pale, his eyes calm. He is not cruel by nature. That is what makes him dangerous. On the table before him lies a parchment, ink dark, edges singed. You recognize it instantly. The script is Enochian, the language of the Watchers. He looks at it for a long time before speaking. The words are poison, he says. They promise light, but bring rebellion. A scribe replies softly, "Then why do they feel true?" The Inquisitor's jaw tightens, because the devil uses truth as bait. He seals the scroll with wax and presses the ring of the order into it. The symbol burns, a cross overlaying a wing, the mark of dominion over flight. Later that night, when the fires are lit and the prisoners brought forth, the Inquisitor recites a prayer of purification. But as he speaks, the air thickens. His voice trembles. For a heartbeat, he feels it. Something in the words fighting back. The parchment on the table hums. The flames waver blue. He steps back, whispering the line he has been taught to never question. God alone decides which light is holy. And yet, when he sleeps, the angels come. He dreams of them, not as devils, not as demons, but as radiant beings with sorrowful eyes. They do not accuse him, they sing to him. A song without beginning or end, a frequency that seeps into the marrow of his sleep. He wakes in terror, certain that salvation and damnation sound the same. The next day, he writes a letter, one he will never send. You find it, centuries later, in an unmarked drawer, its ink faded, its edges brittle. It reads, "I have seen the faces of those we burn. They do not scream in fear. They listen, as though the fire speaks to them. If these are demons, then they burn like saints." The Inquisitor's gospel was never written to be read. It was spoken, whispered between the condemned and the confessors, hidden in the spaces between their words. It survives only in fragments, some carved into pews, some scratched onto prison walls, some remembered in the rhythm of prayers. You find one of those prayers still used today, the Credo ad Lumen, recited before dawn in hidden monasteries. Let not the light deceive me, but let me see it fully, even if it unbinds me, even if it consumes the name I call holy. They thought it was a plea for protection. It was a vow of awakening. You walk now through the same halls where the Inquisition once judged its victims. The air is heavy with the ghosts of questions never answered. The floor beneath you bears faint scorch marks, polished smooth by centuries of feet that pretended not to notice. You touch the walls, and the stone hums faintly. That same vibration, that same buried frequency. It's everywhere. You can almost hear their voices layered into it. The inquisitors and the accused, bound together in a single echo. One sought to silence, the other sought to sing. You find a doorway hidden behind a tapestry. Inside, a small chamber, circular, windowless, built entirely of basalt. The acoustics are perfect. You speak softly, and your voice folds back into itself. A whisper becomes a chord. You realize what this room was. Not a prison, an amplifier. The condemned were brought here to confess. Their words, their frequencies, were captured by the stone. The church called it purification. But in truth, it was preservation. The Inquisitor's gospel was never lost. It was encoded in vibration. You speak aloud the phrase from the letter you found. They burn like saints. The words bounce from wall to wall, layering until the sound becomes something more. Harmonic, angelic, infinite. And in that sound, you hear them. The Watchers, not fallen, waiting. Their message is clear, carried through the centuries. Faith enforced is fear disguised as order. Truth silenced becomes louder in memory. When you step back into the corridor, the torchlight flickers differently, not orange, but white. For a brief moment, it looks like wings brushing the air. You turn toward the exit, heart steady, knowing the Inquisition never truly ended. It just changed form. The modern world calls it reason. Institutions call it protocol, but the machinery is the same, the endless attempt to label light before it blinds. And yet, the Inquisitor's gospel endures, not in books, not in churches, but in every voice that dares to ask why obedience should ever require silence. You whisper into the hall, they burn like saints, and the stone answers back. They always did. The archive opens like a wound. It's a warehouse of forgotten faiths, shelves stacked with ledgers, letters, and relics that no longer have names. The air hums with static, and you know immediately this place was never meant for the public. Every document here was confiscated, every story erased. You move between aisles of iron shelving, each tagged with Latin inscriptions. De Demonibus, De Anomalibus, De Experimentis Caelestis. The files belong to an order, long erased from the Vatican's official history. The Custodes Umbrae, the Keepers of Shadow. They were the angel hunters. Their mission began with fear and ended with madness. In the wake of the Inquisition's last fires, reports began to surface, sightings of beings that glowed, voices that spoke in unknown frequencies, miracles that did not fit the doctrine. The Church, weary of public scandal, created the Custodes Umbrae to investigate anomalies. But their real purpose was simpler: capture what could not be explained, and bury it where no one would ever find it again. You find their journals stacked in numbered boxes. Each begins the same way: witness report. But the further you read, the less they sound like reports, and the more they sound like confessions. We followed the light to the mountains near Carcassonne. It was not fire, it was song. We found a figure, tall, radiant, without shadow. It spoke not in words, but in vibration. My men heard nothing. I heard everything. We buried it under rock and prayed for deafness. Another: they are not fallen. They are hiding. The sky is not empty. It hums. And another, written in shaky hand: we hunted angels to protect men from their own wonder. You close the journal. The ink smudges beneath your thumb. The further you go, the darker it becomes. Reports of living lights found buried beneath monasteries. Artifacts that hum when touched. Choirs recorded in abandoned chapels, the sound later discovered to contain voices not present in the room. One file stands apart, heavier, sealed with red wax. You break the seal and unroll it carefully. Inside are sketches, humanoid forms made of light, each labeled with sigils. A note in Latin beneath reads: specimens 7 to 12, non-mortal, harmonic resonance, unstable. Containment impossible. The handwriting shakes toward the end, as though the writer was no longer in full control of his hand. You look around the room and realize the silence isn't natural. It's held. The walls are thick, reinforced with lead. This place was designed to stop sound from escaping or entering. You whisper, they kept them here. The air answers. A low hum begins, faint but growing. You feel it in your bones first, then in your teeth. The shelves tremble, papers rustle. You turn toward the far end of the hall where a massive iron door stands half buried in shadow. It bears no handle, no keyhole. Only a sigil burned into its surface, 2 intersecting wings. You touch it, and the vibration floods through you. Not pain, but recognition. You close your eyes. The hum becomes a voice. We were not hunted. We were studied. They wish to own what cannot be owned. Images fill your mind, flashes of memory that are not your own. A room of blinding light, a circle of priests surrounding a being of radiance, chanting prayers to keep it bound. The creature watches them calmly. When it speaks, their candles extinguish. The words are not threat, but lament. You cage your teachers and call it salvation. Then darkness. You open your eyes. The hum stops. You are alone again, but the shelves are vibrating, faintly glowing at their edges. You walk toward the door again and whisper, "Where are you now?" The air thickens. A whisper returns, almost human. Everywhere you cannot look. You understand then what the angel hunters truly were. They were not protectors. They were chroniclers of their own blindness. Each capture ended the same way, with disappearance, with silence. But what they tried to erase seeped deeper into the world, hidden in stone, in sound, in dreams. You find one final entry, unsigned, written in the same Enochian script you've seen before. You translate slowly. "We no longer hunt, we listen. The light is patient. When it calls again, we will follow." You close the file. The hum fades into stillness. Yet something has changed. The air feels lighter, charged, awake. The shelves seem to breathe. As you leave the archive, you glance once more at the sigil on the door. The wings seem to shimmer briefly, as if folding inward. Outside, the Vatican bells begin to ring. Their sound echoes through the corridors, pure and resonant. But beneath the melody, you hear another rhythm, soft, steady, familiar, the hum of wings. You step into the daylight. The city looks unchanged. But you know better now. The angel hunters failed. What they sought to contain has always been free. It hides in art, in silence, in every act of kindness too luminous to name. And somewhere, beyond the reach of dogma and stone, the hunted watch from the light they left behind, waiting for humanity to finally look up. You find it buried beneath layers of dust and candle soot, a thin volume wrapped in blackened linen, sealed with wax the color of dried blood. The label is nearly erased, but one word remains: Ignis, fire. The archivist who guides you here speaks in whispers, as though afraid the stone itself might hear. "It was discovered in a collapsed chamber under the old library," he says. "We don't catalogue it. We don't touch it. We simply guard it." You kneel and lift it carefully. The cover hums faintly beneath your fingers, a vibration soft and rhythmic, like breathing. You unseal the wax and unfold the linen. Inside, the parchment is dark, not with age, but with scorch, yet the ink still shines, as if written in something that never cooled. The title, when you finally find it, is written in 3 languages: Latin, Hebrew, and one you don't recognize. It reads, Codex Ignis Caelestis, the Celestial Book of Fire. The first page glows faintly when exposed to air. The text rearranges itself, lines shifting like smoke until they settle into something readable. You start to read. "In the beginning, fire was not destruction. It was memory." You pause. The words seem alive. You continue. "Before light was divided from darkness, there was heat, the first movement, the pulse of creation. Fire was the thought of God made visible." To hold fire is to hold remembrance. You understand, then, that this is no theological allegory. It's a manual, a record of communion between angels and humanity, teaching how to read light as language. You turn the pages slowly. Each one hums with warmth. The ink is metallic, shimmering between gold and red. Diagrams fill the margins, spirals of flame, circles of symbols, geometric designs that seem to rotate when stared at too long. One line catches your eye. "He who learns the temperature of light may speak to those who live within it." Your breath stills. The air feels thicker. The candle beside you flickers violently, bending toward the page as if drawn to it. The archivist shifts nervously. "It reacts," he says. "Sometimes the fire changes color. We've kept it sealed for years. But you know it isn't reacting. It's responding." You whisper a word from the page. "Oriel." The flame freezes, then steadies, glowing pure white. The room fills with a faint hum, like the sound of distant wings. The text continues, describing rituals long erased from scripture. Ceremonies of sound and light used by the watchers before the fall. Each rite begins not with prayer, but with vibration. The voice as catalyst, the flame as translator. Every tongue that burns remembers Eden. The sentence lingers inside you. You imagine those ancient ceremonies, circles of humans and angels speaking in harmony, their voices turning heat into knowledge. Fire as revelation, not punishment. You flip further ahead and find a warning written in red ink. Never call flame without intention. It will answer not what you ask, but what you are. You close the book for a moment. The air has grown hot. You realize the wax seal wasn't meant to protect the book. It was meant to protect the reader. You whisper another word without meaning to. Azariel. The room shudders. The candle explodes into light, but the fire does not spread. It hovers, suspended in air, forming a sphere the size of your palm. Within it, you see movement, shapes of wings, eyes, and fire intertwined. Then a voice, not heard, felt. You have opened the gate of remembrance. You fall to your knees. The air burns your throat, but the voice continues, calm, unjudging. The Codex was not written to teach men to summon fire. It was written to remind them that they already are it. The flame dissolves into dust. The book closes itself. The hum fades. You realize the truth slowly. The Codex of Fire is not a record of ritual. It is a mirror. Every reader sees what they have forgotten. Every page reflects the divine frequency within them. You look at your hands. Faint red symbols shimmer beneath the skin, the same sigils drawn in the margins of the book. They pulse once, then vanish. The archivist stares at you, pale. "It marked you," he whispers. You shake your head. "No, it recognized me." You wrap the book again, sealing it in the linen. The air cools. The stone sighs as though released. You return it to its place in the vault, but as you turn away, you hear a faint crackle. The whisper of pages shifting themselves into new order. You know what it means. The Codex is still writing. It is still alive. When you leave the chamber, dawn is breaking. The first light of morning hits the stained glass, scattering gold and crimson across the floor. The reflection burns, but it doesn't hurt. For a moment, you see the fire for what it truly is. Not judgment, not destruction, remembrance. And somewhere deep within the marble heart of the Vatican, the Codex hums again, whispering to itself in a language older than creation. What was written in flame cannot be erased by fear. The story of her canonization begins, as most miracles do, with silence. Her name was Lucia di Castello, though the Church never calls her that now. To them, she is Saint Lucienne of the Veil, the blind witness. But blindness was never her curse. It was her choice. You find her letters in a sealed wooden box, buried beneath centuries of dust. Inside are pages written in trembling ink. Fragments of thought, half-visions, confessions. Each begins with the same line. "I write what I cannot say aloud." She lived in the early 1600s, a cloistered nun in a small convent outside Florence. She was known for her quietness, for never lifting her gaze when others spoke. The sisters believed her meek, the priests believed her pure, but what none of them saw was that her silence was not submission. It was listening. According to her journals, the first visitation came during a storm. Lightning split the night. and she woke to find her cell filled with light. Not blinding, not burning, but warm. She described it as the color of memory before birth. In the center of that light stood a figure, neither male nor female, neither angel nor human, with eyes like open doors. It said only this: "Do not pray to the light, become it." From that night on, Lucia stopped speaking, not out of fear, but reverence. When questioned by her confessor, she wrote, "Words make cages. Light needs silence to move. But silence in the church is dangerous." Rumors began that she communed with spirits, that she performed miracles without permission. Some claimed she healed a dying sister by touch. Others that she made the crucifix hum when she entered the chapel. The Bishop of Florence called for inquiry. They brought her to the Vatican in winter. Snow fell like ashes over the square. Witnesses said she walked barefoot, her head bowed, her lips still and calm. The investigation lasted 40 days. They asked her to speak. She refused. They asked her to renounce what she had seen. She smiled. One night, her confessor entered her cell. He found her writing by candlelight. He asked what she was doing. She said softly, translating the silence. He didn't understand then. He would later. Her final writings, the ones you hold now, describe visions of the Watchers, not as demons, not as fallen, but as guides hidden in human skin. She wrote that they came to her not in wings, but in thought, patterns of sound that filled her veins like melody. They said, "I am not to be taken. I am to be remembered." The church condemned her writings as heresy. She was exiled from her order and confined in a small chapel near Rome, forbidden to take communion or speak the sacraments. But the miracles continued. Candles lit themselves when she prayed. Birds nested in the rafters even in winter. Pilgrims began to arrive, whispering her name. She died one spring morning. The records say her heart stopped during prayer. The witnesses say something else, that a sound like rushing wind filled the chapel, and when they opened the door, Lucia was kneeling, her eyes open for the first time, glowing faintly with light. Her body never decayed. The Vatican could not explain it, so they sanctified it. The wingless saint, they called her, a woman who heard angels but never claimed to see them. They placed her relics in a golden shrine and locked away her letters. You hold one now, her last. The ink is pale, the words trembling. They told me wings are not given to those who stay. They are the memory of movement. You are the sky, remembering how to rise. You close the letter. The room feels different now, lighter, though no window is open. You walk toward the shrine where her body rests. Her face is calm, her eyes closed again, hands folded in eternal prayer. But when you lean closer, you hear it. A faint hum, the same vibration that has followed you since the beginning. It comes not from the marble, not from the air, but from her chest. You whisper her name. The hum grows louder. For an instant, her lips move, just enough to form one word. Listen. You step back, trembling. The candles flicker, and the golden walls glow faintly from within. The light bends, forming patterns like feathers across the floor. You realize what she meant. Her silence was never emptiness. It was song in another key, too high for most to hear. The wingless saint was no miracle worker. She was a bridge, a living frequency between the divine and the forgotten. The church canonized her to contain her, but in doing so, they preserved her resonance. Every chapel that bears her name hums faintly at 432 hertz. The same frequency found in the chants of the Watchers. You kneel before her shrine. The air vibrates. The candles flare white. You hear her voice again, woven through the hum. Wings are not to lift you from the earth. They are to remind you that you were never bound to it. The sound fades, leaving only silence. But you know now what her silence truly was. The language of angels translated into stillness. You rise slowly. Outside, dawn spills across the Vatican. The bells begin to toll. Each ring echoes her note. Somewhere deep within the earth, beneath stone and doctrine, the hum continues. Lucia's silence, the codex's fire, the watcher's song, all the same pulse, all the same light remembering its own reflection. You whisper, "I hear you," and the air answers softly, "Then speak us back into being." The sound reaches you before the door does, a low vibration, almost imperceptible, too low for the human ear, but felt by the bones, a trembling under the ribs. It feels like heartbeat, or thunder, or mourning. The archivist who leads you through the catacombs does not speak. His torch paints trembling shapes along the corridor, angels with wings folded, their eyes hidden under stone lids, their mouths carved open as if mid-song. You realize this place was never meant for prayer. It was built for containment. At the end of the passage, the corridor widens into a vast chamber. In its center stands a circle of iron cages, suspended by chains from the ceiling. The cages are empty now, but the air around them hums with residue, an after-sound that refuses to die. You whisper, "What was kept here?" The archivist answers without turning. Voices. You don't understand at first. He gestures toward the chains. Not bodies, not souls. Frequencies. He lifts the torch higher, and you see faint inscriptions etched into the metal. Notes, chords, symbols. You move closer, reading the markings, scales in intervals that no known instrument can play. You trace one with your fingertip. The iron feels warm. "They captured the resonance," he says. "The sound of angels." Your breath catches. "Why would they?" "To silence them," he interrupts softly. "To keep heaven from answering." You walk slowly between the cages. Each one is shaped differently, some round, some square, some twisted like vines. The geometry feels purposeful, as though each design was tuned for a particular note. The floor beneath them is marked with spirals of ash, burnt traces of incense or something older. You kneel, and the hum deepens. It feels alive, a pulse beneath your knees. The archivist sets down the torch. When the Vatican realized sound could open what prayer could not, it began to fear its own liturgy. The choir of the watchers was still heard in some places, faint echoes carried through the mass. So they built this. You whisper, "The choir in chains." He nods. The angels sang through vibration, not voice. Their song was woven into matter. These cages captured it, forced it to stillness. You touch one of the bars. The hum shifts. It rises in pitch, forming a faint melody. 5 notes repeating in perfect sequence. The archivist's eyes widen. That's not supposed to happen. The chamber brightens, not from torchlight, but from within the iron itself. Each cage begins to vibrate softly. The sound builds, overlapping until it becomes harmony. You step back, heart racing. The air thickens, rippling. You feel it moving through you, not as sound but as memory, images flashing behind your eyelids, wings chained to stone, light condensed into sound, angels kneeling not in worship but in captivity. They are singing, still. The archivist shouts, "Stop! You'll wake them!" But you can't. The sound has already filled the room, vast and sorrowful, a choir of light remembering its own imprisonment. The chains rattle, releasing flakes of rust like sparks. The cages glow white hot. And then, silence. You open your eyes. The chamber is unchanged, but the air feels lighter, unburdened. The archivist stands frozen, staring at the cages, his lips trembling. "They've gone," he whispers. "The frequencies are gone." You shake your head. No, they've been freed. He sinks to his knees. You don't understand. The angels chained here were not bound by us. They bound themselves, to stay, to keep the balance. The words strike you cold. To stay? He nods. When heaven silenced them, they chose imprisonment over exile. They anchored their resonance here so earth would not fall completely into shadow. You look at the cages again. The hum is gone, but your body still vibrates faintly with its echo. Then what happens now? The archivist doesn't answer. He looks up toward the ceiling where the chains vanish into darkness. If they are free, it means heaven has shifted again. The balance has changed. You feel it too. The air outside the chamber, the world itself, suddenly too still. You walk toward the exit, heart hammering, and as you step back into the corridor, the statues along the walls seem different, their faces less serene, their mouths slightly open, as if about to speak. The choir in chains no longer hums, but somewhere in the distance, beyond the catacombs, you hear the faint echo of bells, not ringing in unison, but in harmony, like voices remembering a song. You whisper to the dark, you were never prisoners. The silence answers, we were anchors. And in that moment, you realize the truth. The angels were not kept to prevent heaven from falling. They stayed to keep humanity from forgetting it could rise. The choir has ascended again, not to the sky, but to the heart of every sound that dares to break silence. You close your eyes and listen. The hum has changed. It's everywhere now. You don't find it in the archives. You find it beneath them, far below the catacombs, deeper than any map dares mark. The air grows heavy as you descend. The walls shift from stone to metal. The torches go out, replaced by a pale light that hums without source. Each step downward feels like walking into the lungs of something vast and sleeping. You follow the vibration, low, mechanical, constant. The rhythm is too precise to be natural, too alive to be entirely human. The Vatican's machine. You reach a massive door of brushed iron, seamless except for a single engraving, two intersecting wings forming the shape of an eye. Beneath it, a phrase in Latin, Fiat lux, contine lumen. Let there be light, contain the light. You press your palm against it. The door opens silently, inhaling air that tastes like dust and static. The chamber beyond is enormous, circular, lined with pipes and glass conduits, glowing faintly from within. At its center stands a structure unlike anything human hands should have built. It resembles both organ and engine, a cathedral made of brass and electricity. It breathes. You approach cautiously. The sound it emits is not noise, not entirely music. A drone, deep and resonant, layered with whispers that shift like wind through metal. Every step you take forward, the hum adjusts, as though aware of your presence. You find a control panel near the base, switches, levers, dials, all labeled in Latin and Enochian. You read one inscription, Resonantia Domini, the voice of God. The Vatican built this, or rather, finished it. The machine is older than Rome, older than the church. It was found beneath the ruins of Babylon, recovered piece by piece, and reconstructed here, under the pretense of study. You run your hand across the metal. It's warm. The hum vibrates into your bones. Then you see the carvings, concentric circles covered in inscriptions, formulas, frequencies, names. Each corresponds to an angelic tone. You understand it now. The machine was designed to replicate their harmony, to summon their song, to control their resonance. The Vatican called it the mechanism of light. It was meant to harness the divine frequency, to turn heaven's language into power, a generator of sacred sound. But something went wrong. You find old logs written in ink, hidden in drawers beneath the console. The handwriting changes as you flip through. Some lines are hurried, desperate. The resonance exceeds human tolerance. Subjects collapse at 7.3 hertz. Containment impossible. The sound moves through matter. It speaks back. You read the last line again. It speaks back. The machine was never silent. It listened. You step closer to the core. Within the brass lattice, you see it. A faint shimmer, like air bending under heat. It pulses in rhythm with the hum. For a moment, you think it's light. Then it moves. A shape forms inside the lattice, wings folded, eyes like molten gold. It's not physical, not entirely. A resonance made visible. The voice comes not from the shape, but from the vibration itself. You used our song to cage us. Your body trembles. I didn't build this, but you are built from it. The sound rises, filling every nerve. The machine hums louder, and the conduits along the walls begin to glow. Red, then white, then blinding. You understand now. This wasn't a tool of power. It was an attempt at imitation. The church tried to recreate heaven's music, but the frequency is alive. It cannot be contained without consequence. The machine pulses once, twice. The ground trembles. Containment failed, says a voice behind you. You turn to see an elderly priest in torn vestments, his eyes hollow but clear. He's been here all along, a guardian no one remembers. He speaks calmly. They turned it on once. The sound spread through Rome. Bells shattered. Birds fell from the sky. The city hummed for 3 days. Then it stopped. You whisper, "What did it do?" He looks at the pulsing shape in the core. It awakened what we had forgotten, and that terrified them more than hell itself. The machine thrums louder, as if recognizing his voice. The priest steps forward, resting his hand on the console. "It's singing again," he says softly. "It remembers you." You feel the vibration rise through your feet, into your chest, into your skull. The hum transforms into harmony. Thousands of tones layered into one endless note. You recognize it. The same frequency from the choir, the codex, the wingless saint. It's all connected. Every sound, every hum, every whisper, fragments of the same ancient song. The priest looks at you, tears glinting. You can shut it down. You shake your head. It's not meant to stop. He nods slowly. Then listen. The machine's light floods the chamber. You hear the song, not in your ears, but in your blood. You see through it. The Vatican above, the city beyond, the stars overhead, all vibrating at the same rhythm, the same hum. It's not a weapon. It's an awakening. The priests feared it would destroy their faith, but it only reveals its source. The divine isn't separate, it's frequency. Harmony woven through everything that exists. The machine stops suddenly, the light fades, silence returns. The priest has vanished. The chamber feels empty, but not dead. You look at the console. One lever is marked with a single word, memoria, memory. You pull it down. The machine exhales. The hum restarts. Soft, steady, infinite. This time, it doesn't stay below. It rises, through the marble, through the city, through the bells and the clouds, until the entire world vibrates with its tone. Above you, the angels awaken, not as figures, but as sound. Below you, the earth answers, and for the first time since heaven's silence began, the world hums in tune again. The desert is silent, but it is not empty. You walk across the scorched earth, where wind carves memory into sand. Each grain glows faintly under the sun, as if holding the residue of light too ancient to fade. The horizon is endless, and yet you know exactly where you are going. The coordinates whispered by a voice you heard not with your ears, but through vibration. The Book of Enoch began here, and somewhere beneath your feet, it still breathes. You stop at the edge of a ravine, The ground splits open, revealing a staircase cut into the rock. Each step is engraved with symbols that pulse faintly as you descend. Spirals, wings, eyes. The same markings that appeared in the Codex of Fire. The air cools. The light dims. You enter the earth. At the base of the stairs stands a massive door, carved from black stone. A language runs across it. A fusion of Hebrew and something older, pre-human. You place your hand against the surface, and the stone vibrates. It recognizes you. The door opens slowly, not with sound, but with pressure, as if the world itself is exhaling. Inside, the chamber is circular, vast, and silent. At its center lies a sarcophagus made of translucent quartz. Within it, a body rests, not decayed, not dead, suspended in stillness. The tomb of Enoch. He does not look like the saints painted in churches. His skin is pale as marble, faintly luminous. His hands are crossed over his chest, fingers marked with glowing lines that form constellations. His eyes are closed, but behind them you feel thought. Old, vast, dreaming. You walk closer. The air thickens with energy. Your pulse slows to match the rhythm around you. You remember what the lost texts said. Enoch was taken, not to die, but to transform. The first human to ascend into light, the bridge between flesh and frequency. The Watchers taught him their language, and he wrote it down. His book was banned, his name erased, but his body, his vibration, was hidden, waiting for those who could hear its hum. You kneel beside the sarcophagus. A faint warmth emanates through the stone. You whisper his name. Enoch. The quartz glows faintly. Lines of fire race across its surface, forming patterns that spiral outward like wings unfolding. A voice fills the chamber, not external, not internal, but everywhere. You are late. You freeze. The voice is calm, without tone, yet it carries weight older than time. You whisper, "You're alive." Alive is a word for those who have forgotten light, the voice replies. "I am remembered." You bow your head. Why were you buried? Not buried, preserved. I chose stillness so that the song would survive corruption. They feared what I learned, that heaven is not above us, but within us. You touch the glass. The church erased you. They erased sound, not silence. They feared angels because angels were proof that obedience is not divinity. They built a faith from fear. And so I slept, waiting for one who would listen again. You close your eyes. Then tell me, what was the first truth? There is silence. Deep, heavy, endless. Then, that light is not purity. It is memory, and all things that remember are divine. The words pierce through you. You understand. The angels were not fallen. They were fragments of memory, scattered into matter, each human being one echo of their light. The sarcophagus begins to vibrate. The hum deepens, resonating through your chest. Symbols light up along the walls, spreading like veins through stone. The chamber itself becomes an instrument. You are part of the last verse, Enoch says. The song has begun again. The machine has woken. The choir is free. The flame remembers. Now the balance must return. You ask, how? By remembering that creation was never command. It was collaboration. A pulse of light radiates from the sarcophagus, filling the room. You see visions. Cities made of sound, rivers of light, beings of geometry weaving galaxies with music. You see the Watchers teaching humankind how to speak in resonance, not words. You see the fall, not rebellion, but choice. The separation of frequency into silence. When the light fades, the chamber feels still again. You realize the sarcophagus is empty. Enoch is gone, but his voice remains, lingering in the hum of the walls. The song continues. Find the sealed gospel. The last frequency is waiting. You rise slowly. The ground trembles beneath you. The markings on the stairs glow faintly as you ascend back into the desert. The sun is setting now, red, enormous, trembling at the horizon. When you reach the surface, the air hums faintly. The wind itself carries rhythm. You look toward the sky, and for a moment, the clouds part into the shape of wings. You whisper, "Where are you now?" And the wind answers, "Everywhere you listen." You stand in silence, the desert stretching infinite before you. The tomb closes behind you, its hum sinking back into the sand. The story of Enoch was never death or resurrection. It was transmutation. He did not rise into heaven. Heaven rose into him. And as the night descends, you feel it happening again. The same vibration stirring beneath the world, awakening memory. The Watchers are no longer myth. They are melody. And the melody is remembering its name. The Vatican denies it exists, but you know better. Every clue has pointed here, to a text hidden not in any archive, but sealed behind the very idea of Scripture itself. A book said to rewrite everything, a gospel written not by man, nor by angel, but by both. The gospel of the boundary. You find it deep within a vault beneath the apostolic library, behind a false wall of Latin manuscripts. The air is thick with dust, yet charged, alive with the same low hum that has followed you since the Codex of Fire. The book is bound in white leather, translucent like skin seen through light. No title, no markings. But when you open it, the pages shimmer. They shift between symbols, drawings, and words written in a language that seems to translate itself as you read. The first line makes your heart stop. In the beginning was the sound, and the sound was with the divine, and the sound became flesh. It's not John's gospel. It's older. It's the source of his. You read further. The Watchers descended not in sin, but in remembrance. They came to teach that heaven and earth were never separate, only out of tune. But man feared harmony, for it left no master. So they built a wall of faith and called it God. You close the book, trembling. The air vibrates, faintly glowing. This is the sealed gospel, the one whispered of in forbidden councils, the one the popes swore never existed. The gospel that declared divinity mutual, not hierarchical. You turn another page. The fall was not of angels. It was of men who forgot they were light. The ink seems to move, forming patterns. You trace them with your finger and feel warmth, as if touching living memory. Each word sings when read aloud, quiet, harmonic, resonant. The text tells of Enoch's transformation, of his teaching that all consciousness is co-creation, that prayer is merely the act of remembering unity. It speaks of a covenant between light and flesh, a pact to keep the divine present in the world until humanity is ready to remember itself. And then it shifts. The words rearrange, forming new sentences before your eyes. The church built walls to contain the song. The angels built echoes to outlast them. When the hum returns, the gates shall open, not above, but within. You hear it then, the hum rising again from the floor. The book begins to vibrate in your hand. You drop it, and it lands open on a page covered in spirals of gold ink. The light expands, filling the chamber. Voices emerge. A choir, not of angels above, but of thousands around you, unseen, singing in perfect resonance. Their song is wordless, yet you understand. The sealed gospel is not a book, it is you. The light folds inward, forming shapes, human silhouettes woven from fire. The Watchers, they surround you, not as ghosts, but as memories awakened. Their voices merge into one. For centuries, you read words and forgot their sound. You built temples and forgot their tone. The divine never left. You simply stopped vibrating at its frequency. You whisper, Why reveal this now? Because the silence has served its purpose. The machine sings again. The choir is free. Enoch walks the world. The tombs are empty. Now the final verse must be spoken by those made of dust and light alike. The book glows brighter. Symbols lift off its pages, floating into the air like embers. Each one hums in perfect harmony. The ground trembles. You fall to your knees, overwhelmed by the sound. You see visions. Rome vibrating with light, cathedrals singing, statues breathing, bells ringing in new chords. The earth itself pulsing like a living instrument. Humanity awakening, not through apocalypse, but resonance. Then, as quickly as it began, it stops. The light collapses back into the pages. The hum fades to silence. You pick up the book. It feels lighter now. When you look down, every page is blank. The words are gone, but the hum remains inside you. You realize what the angels meant. The gospel was never meant to be read. It was meant to be remembered. The divine text is vibration, living through every being that dares to listen. You leave the vault, the white book in your hands. When you step into the courtyard, dawn is breaking. Bells ring across the city. But this time, the tone is different, deeper, warmer, aligned. Every sound carries the same frequency. Every light flickers in the same rhythm. The Vatican hums with the resonance of awakening. You open the book one last time. A single sentence has reappeared. When heaven remembered earth, earth remembered itself. You smile through tears. The hum in your chest rises, steady and pure. The sealed gospel is not a prophecy, it's an invitation. And as you walk into the golden light of morning, you understand. The Word made flesh was never a story. It was a reminder. You are the sound continuing. You are the scripture unfinished. You are the verse heaven forgot it wrote. And now it sings again. Before you open your eyes again, take a breath. If you felt the hum, if the story stayed with you, then stay with it. Follow, subscribe, and keep listening, because this isn't the end. It's only the next vibration. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next chapter of the unseen, where history whispers, light remembers, and the story continues to sing.